November 14, 1942. Just after 11:30 p.m. on the bridge of the battleship USS South Dakota. The night explodes into blinding white. Multiple searchlight beams lock onto the ship, pinning it against the absolute black of the Pacific. Simultaneously, a violent shudder runs through the hull. A circuit breaker trips, then another. Lights flicker, alarms blare, then fall silent. The radar screens die. The ship is suddenly blind and deaf. As the first enemy shells find their mark, the crew realizes something even more terrifying. Their escort, the battleship USS Washington, has vanished. They are utterly alone, a helpless, illuminated target. This moment should have been a catastrophe, a defeat far worse than the one suffered in these same waters just 2 nights before. Yet it became the turning point in the last great battleship versus battleship duel in history. This raises a single, decisive question. How did one ship, having vanished into the darkness, suddenly see everything and single-handedly turn imminent disaster into a stunning victory? To find the answer, we must go back only a few hours. The Guadalcanal campaign is hanging by a thread. The brutal naval battle on the night of November 13th has left the U.S. Navy reeling, its cruiser force shattered. For the American Marines clinging to the vital airstrip, Henderson Field, it feels like the end. But from his headquarters in Noumea, the pugnacious Admiral William "Bull" Halsey makes a desperate, last-ditch gamble. He commits his only available battleships, the new, untested USS Washington and USS South Dakota. They form Task Force 64, a final line of defense. Command falls to a man unlike any other in the fleet, Rear Admiral Willis Ching Lee. He is not a swashbuckling brawler. He's a cool-headed intellectual, an Olympic sharpshooter, and the Navy's foremost expert on a new, almost mystical technology, radar. Lee has staked his career on the belief that radar can turn the tide of night battles. Tonight, he will have to prove it. His opponent is Vice Admiral Nobutake Kondo, a seasoned veteran leading a powerful Japanese bombardment group. His flagship is the battlecruiser Kirishima, supported by a screen of cruisers and destroyers. Kondo's crews are the undisputed masters of night combat, equipped with the devastatingly effective Type 93 torpedo, the Long Lance, a weapon whose range and power the Americans cannot yet fathom. Lee's orders are simple and stark. Intercept Kondo and prevent the shelling of Henderson Field at all costs. As his task force steams north toward the narrow, dangerous waters of Guadalcanal, a channel already so littered with sunken vessels it's been nicknamed Ironbottom Sound, Lee knows everything is on the line. His unproven ships, his green crews, and his faith in technology are about to collide with the most proficient night-fighting force on the planet. Just before 11 o'clock, Lee's meticulously crafted plan disintegrates. His 4 screening destroyers make the first contact with what their older radars show as a group of enemy ships. Following aggressive doctrine, the destroyer commander charges forward, but critically, he fails to coordinate with Lee on the Washington. The result is a vicious, point-blank melee. The Japanese vanguard, drilled to perfection in night combat, reacts with lethal speed. Their gunnery is precise, their torpedoes devastating. In just over 10 minutes, Lee's protective screen is shattered. The USS Walk and USS Preston are mortally wounded and sinking. The USS Benham is crippled by a torpedo, its bow sheared off. The USS Gwin is badly damaged. The plan is in ruins. Lee has lost his forward sensors and his shield against torpedoes. His 2 priceless battleships are now dangerously exposed, steaming alone towards an unseen enemy force. The vanguard has been annihilated. The battleships are the new front line. With his destroyer screen gone, Admiral Lee's battleships are now the tip of the spear. On the USS South Dakota, Captain Thomas Gatch orders his ship forward, into the heart of the fight. At 11:17 p.m., its secondary batteries open up on a Japanese cruiser illuminated by a burning destroyer. Then, its main guns join the fray. The 9 16-inch cannons, each firing a 2,700-pound shell, unleash a deafening, concussive roar that shakes the 45,000-ton vessel to its keel. And then, disaster. The sheer shock of its own gunfire causes a series of critical electrical failures. A chief engineer, during the ship's shakedown cruise, had ordered the main circuit breakers tied shut, a safe configuration, to prevent them from tripping during routine gunnery practice. It was a logical precaution, but tonight it is catastrophic. Instead of tripping and resetting, the overloaded system suffers a cascading power surge. One after another, circuits blow. The lights on the bridge flicker and die. The advanced fire control computers go dark. The radio room falls silent. Most critically, the SG radar screen, the ship's electronic eyes, fades to black. In a matter of seconds, the South Dakota is transformed from a state-of-the-art weapon into a blind, 700-foot giant, blundering through the dark, unable to fight, unable to communicate, and unable to see. From the bridge of the Japanese battlecruiser Kirishima, the scene is one of stunning, almost unbelievable fortune. Vice Admiral Kondo's forces have just annihilated the American destroyers. Suddenly, their lookouts spot a colossal silhouette emerging from the smoke, a modern American battleship, the ultimate prize. At 11:22 p.m., the Japanese cruiser Ayanami snaps on its powerful searchlight, followed by others. The South Dakota is pinned in multiple beams of brilliant, merciless white light. To the Japanese commanders, it appears to be the only American capital ship, sailing erratically, its guns firing sporadically and without effect. This is the culmination of all their training, the perfect execution of their night battle doctrine. Isolate the primary threat, illuminate it, and concentrate all firepower to annihilate it. Kondo gives the order. From the Kirishima, from the cruisers Otago and Takao, every gun that can bear swings toward the lit-up target. Aboard the USS Washington, steaming just behind its crippled sister ship, Admiral Lee watches the catastrophe unfold. The South Dakota is a beacon, drawing fire from all directions. Shell splashes erupt around it. Tracers crisscross the night sky, all converging on one point. But while his eyes see a disaster, his radar sees an opportunity. On the glowing green scope of his SG radar, Lee has a god's eye view. He sees the South Dakota, a bright stationary blip. He sees the burning hulks of his destroyers, and he sees the entire Japanese formation, clearly rendered as a collection of sharp, distinct contacts. The Kirishima, the largest of them all, is perfectly resolved. Lee realizes the Japanese are so fixated on the illuminated South Dakota that they are completely ignoring the darkness around it. Their own searchlights have destroyed their night vision. He makes a critical decision. He orders the Washington to turn to port, away from the South Dakota, steering his ship into a patch of absolute black between the ongoing battle and the coast of Savo Island. To the Japanese lookouts, the Washington simply disappears. It has slipped into their blind spot, a ghost ship, just 8,400 yards away from their flagship. The pressure on Lee is immense. The South Dakota is being pummeled. At least 27 shells, from 5-inch to 14-inch, strike the ship, wrecking its superstructure and starting fires. Every instinct, every fiber of a commander's being screams to open fire, to do something to save the stricken vessel. His gunnery officers are reporting they have targets. But Lee, the Olympic sharpshooter, resists the impulse. He is a master of gunnery, and he knows that a premature salvo, fired from a maneuvering ship without a stable solution, would likely miss. It would waste the element of surprise and reveal his position for nothing. He holds his fire. He watches the radar. He lets the chaos on the South Dakota buy him precious, agonizing minutes. He is using the time not just to hide, but to achieve a perfect textbook firing solution, on the largest target on his screen. This is a commander's discipline at its most extreme, a cold, calculated wager against time and destruction. The South Dakota is now absorbing a horrific beating. It has lost steering control and is sailing in a wide, uncontrolled circle. The Japanese, sensing a kill, begin to close the distance. On the bridge of the Washington, the voice of the fire control officer cuts through the tension. He has a solid radar lock on the largest enemy contact. The analog computers have solved the complex firing problem: range, bearing, speed, direction. The solution is perfect. All 9 of the Washington's 16-inch guns, guided by radar, are trained on the unsuspecting Kirishima. This moment was more than a perfect firing solution. It was the climax of a silent, intellectual battle fought in the minds of the opposing commanders. The Japanese were executing their doctrine flawlessly. Honed by years of training, their night-fighting philosophy was built on visual supremacy. Find the target, illuminate it, and destroy it with concentrated fire. Their skepticism of their own primitive radar only reinforced this reliance on the warrior's keen eye. In doing everything right by their standards, they did everything wrong. On the USS Washington, Admiral Lee was fighting a different kind of war. His decision to hold fire wasn't just patience, it was the implementation of a new philosophy. He was trusting the silent, abstract data on a screen over the explosive reality outside his bridge. It wasn't the radar alone that was about to win this battle. It was the commander who had the iron discipline to think with it. At 11:37 p.m., on the bridge of the Washington, Admiral Lee's voice was calm, almost academic. Commence firing. The range was 8,400 yards. The night erupted. 9 16-inch guns, followed instantly by the rapid-fire staccato of the 5-inch batteries, unleashed a perfectly aimed, radar-directed torrent of steel. For the men on the Kirishima, it was a physical shock, a cataclysm from nowhere. One moment they were pounding a helpless target. The next, their own ship was being torn apart by devastatingly accurate fire from a ghost in the dark. There were no muzzle flashes to aim at, no ship to target, only destruction. In just 7 minutes, the Washington smashed the battlecruiser with at least 9 16-inch armor-piercing projectiles and around 40 5-inch shells. The effect was catastrophic. Kirishima's forward turrets were silenced, its superstructure shredded. The rudder jammed hard to starboard, forcing the ship into a helpless circle as massive, uncontrollable fires raged below decks. The Hunter, unseen and untouched, had annihilated its target without receiving a single hit in return. The Kirishima was a burning wreck, and Admiral Kondo's fleet now faced an invisible executioner. Stunned by the sudden, devastatingly accurate fire, Admiral Kondo ordered a general retreat, abandoning the mission to bombard Henderson Field. The crippled Kirishima, too damaged to be saved, was scuttled by its crew hours later. And the USS South Dakota, the ship we saw being pounded in the dark, it survived. Despite 27 confirmed hits, its heavy armor held, and it would withdraw for repairs. The battle was the strategic turning point of the Guadalcanal campaign. The Imperial Japanese Navy would never again risk its battleships in Ironbottom Sound. This night was the ultimate vindication of the U.S. Navy's faith in radar and centralized fire control, proving that a technological edge, wielded by a disciplined crew under a calm commander, could decisively overcome an enemy's hard-won experience. In the dark of Ironbottom Sound, the future of naval warfare arrived not with a warrior's shout, but as a silent, green line on a radar screen.